All right, so today I'm going to be going over how to create and edit content within Cascade CMS. Just to get started, I'm currently sitting within a folder. Folders are used to represent sites within Cascade CMS. Just some basics that you should know is that every folder, if it's going to be housing pages, should have an index page. If you don't have a page literally titled index, then you will run into issues with it with just like content linking, content not appearing where it should. This is just how Cascade works. It's unfortunately not something that we can control. But yeah, index pages will act as the home page for that folder. You will also notice that we have folders dedicated for images and documents. So when uploading images, they should always go into the image folder, and documents should go into the documents folder. This is helpful for content organization and maintainability down the road. It can be sort of difficult to go through and make appropriate edits to pages or folders in general when you just have a bunch of files just sort of all over the place. So to begin, I will show you how to create a standard page. Standard pages are going to be the type of content that you use for the vast majority of use cases within Cascade. So in order to do that, you need to go up here and click on the Add Content button. And from this little window that appears, you want to click on Standard. And then you will see the editor. So the editor may seem a little bit overwhelming at first, but really it doesn't have to be too difficult. Not everything within this is required in order to create a page, so I will just go over the most essential pieces. First and foremost, you have the title of the page. So you will notice some help text just sort of explaining what the title is, where it's used, etc. For our training purposes, I'm just going to name it sample page. Here you'll see some checkboxes. By default, the only one checked is include components. So what this one does is it makes it so your components are available. If you uncheck it, you'll notice you no longer have components listed. You will want to leave this checked most of the time. We will go over what exactly that does in a little bit, but for now, just sit tight. Also, don't worry too much about these other checkboxes. They're a bit more niche in their use cases. You probably won't be needing to use them, and if you're curious, feel free to reach out and we can sort of explain more about that. But most of the time, you won't need to touch them. So first off, details. This is what is going to appear if there is a preview of your page around the site. Typically, this is just within the child page grid that is present on landing pages. I will be demonstrating that in a little bit, but just know that you should always have a brief description of your page. So for this, I'm just going to write, this is a test page used for demonstrating Cascade CMS content creation. Next, you have the masthead. The masthead is going to be sort of the header at the top of your page that includes sort of a title for the section of the site that you are on, along with an image. So typically you want to have an image. Header images can be found at the base level of the CWU site. You will notice that there is an images folder, and then we have another subfolder titled Hero Images. You want to click on this, and there's a lot of hero images used in here. Typically, throughout your site, you're going to want to be consistent and using the same header image throughout that site. So before creating a page, it might be helpful to go through and look at another page within your site and see what image it is using and select that same one. For testing purposes, I'm just going to go with this one right here. There's no specific significance to it. It's just what I'm choosing for the time being. Next, for the headline, I'm just going to put sample site. And so if I was making any other pages throughout the site, they would also have the same headline within the masthead. And don't worry if you're confused on what this is going to look like. I will be showing you in just a moment. So the introduction, It's not particularly necessary. It doesn't really have any special meaning to it in terms of the content that goes in it. It's kind of just a way to better organize your content, and just sort of aesthetically change the page a little bit, just in terms of how it's displayed. Uh, you don't have to use it. There's some help text that explains what each of these do. Uh, so just for the sake of this intro video, I will show you how to use it. So for the headline, I will just put introduction, and then I'm going to leave this blank, but for the content, I will just put something basic. Let's go with, I am currently recording a video on how to create content. Welcome to my page. So next, we will go over the components. The components are where the meat of your content for the page is going to reside. You will see that there are different types of components that you can choose from: accordions, featured content, form, frame, media, and storytelling. So, and you can scroll down, and there's also tables, WYSIWYGs, and directories. I'm not positive if you will have access to all of these or not. Some of these components are locked behind admin-only permissions. So if it's not there, don't worry. That just means it's a component type that only we have access to. And if it's something that you really need to use, you can always reach out to us by either submitting a ticket or emailing one of us in web services. So the most common one that you're going to be using is the WYSIWYG. This acronym stands for What You See Is What You Get. It is a text editor sort of similar to Microsoft Word, except just very dumbed down when it comes to formatting. Content is the main section that you will be entering material into. This is just basically where you would type anything that you want to appear on your page. So just to give you an example of how the formatting works, I will say this is, and then just like in Microsoft Word, I would select bold. This is a bold word. Technically 2 words, but that's okay. Similarly, we can select italics and say this is an italic word. There's other things you can do that are relatively self-explanatory, like creating bulleted lists. You can also create ordered lists, so on and so forth. If you need to create a link to somewhere within the site, you want to use this insert/edit link button. And now here's something to pay attention to. So there's 2 types of links that you can create, internal and external. If you are creating a link to another page within Cascade, you are always going to want to use internal links. This is because one of the benefits of using Cascade is when you point to other content within the site using this internal link selector, regardless of where that page lives, it will keep track of that. So say the page gets moved to another location, you don't have to worry about coming back and changing the URL to reflect that change. Fortunately, it will continue to point towards that item regardless of where it lives. So I'm going to just create an internal link to the building hours page within facilities. And then for the text to display, I'm just going to put this is a link to building hours. I will hit OK. And as you see, we now have a link that will point to that asset. If you are creating a link to a page that is not within the CWU's website, you will want to use an external link, and it's the same process as before, but for the link source, you will be pasting the link into this field right here, and you just select the text that you want it to be. So just for example, off the top of my head, let's go with google.com. And then for the text to display, this is a link to Google. So this will cover, like I said, the vast majority of your content creation needs. You will see that you can insert images within the WYSIWYG editor. We will get to that momentarily, but for now, I think we have covered the most important things. Within this dropdown for format, as you can see, there's like different headings that you can select. Be aware that you shouldn't be selecting these for purely stylistic purposes. Headings within the context of web development do have semantic meanings, so they will be portrayed differently to, say, users who might have like visual impairments that are using screen readers or other assistive technologies, just in terms of conveying the significance of what that text is. So use these sparingly only when there is important meaning to what you are writing. If you want to add more than one component, you can just select this Add New Group button. You will see a new component appears, and then you can just once again select the type of component that you want. For the next one, I will select accordions because that is probably the most common one that users use besides the WYSIWYG. Accordions are sort of, it's a little difficult to explain. When you see like multiple drop downs that house content within a page, sort of to like clean up the page, that is an accordion. We will be previewing the draft shortly just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, let's just get this started. There's help text for everything and titles. That should be like relatively straightforward. So this is I'm just gonna call this accordion, and I will just write, this houses content to organize the page. And then actually here, accordion 1, and let's call this one accordion 2, and then I'll put, here's more content being housed to organize the page. Okay, so we've covered all the important parts of a standard page. Let's go ahead and, and right here, we should probably title the accordion, example accordion. Okay, so let's go ahead and preview our draft by clicking this button in the upper right. And you will see that we have now created a page. So within this page, you will see everything that we just created. Here's our links. Here's the accordion, which is probably the thing that was the hardest to describe. So this is what an accordion is. The stuff that we wrote for each of these elements is housed within this. You just have to click it and it will open, revealing the content. One thing to be aware of with accordions is you don't want to overuse them. They should only be used when you have like large amounts of content for a page that just create like a unnecessarily large page. An example for when you might want to use an accordion is, say, you have like meeting reports that you want to be posting on a web page, and as opposed to just having like 20 reports dumped onto one page, you could house each meeting report within these accordions, just to sort of like clean it up and not make the page much longer than it needs to be. So now that we've gone over all of that, let's click up here to go back to our folder. Oh, sorry about that. So what I did not do that I should have done is I need to go up here and submit the page that I was just working on. You can just leave this at the default for most of the time. This is basically just comments that are left to improve version history so people can go through and see what edits were made. When you're creating a page, first version is usually sufficient. If I was going through and making updates to a specific section, I would write something like updated main content to include insert new information, whatever that may be. But for now, let's just leave it at first version. Then you press check content and submit. You will see I've apparently got one misspelling. Let's see what that is. CMS, it's just not included within the dictionary, but that is correct, so I'm just going to leave it. And now within our site, you will see that that page exists. So let's go back to the index page, which is the high-level landing page for the site. And here's the most important thing to be aware of on this page. This is the child grid. It provides basically like tile links to the different pages and folders that live within the site. So the things that are shown in this section are pages that live at the same level of the folder as the index page. And if you have other folders within your site that contain more pages, it on this child grid, it will show the index pages for those folders as well. If I were to click on this little tile element, it looks bad when you're within Cascade. If you were on the live site, it would just take you directly to this page and everything would look fine, but you will see it takes you to the page that we just created. So let's not worry about that right now. Like I said, you will find index pages for other folders that live at the same level as this high-level landing page within this child grid. So as an editor for Cascade, you will not be able to create new folders within your site. That is something that you will have to reach out and submit a ticket to web services in order to do. But just to give an example of the importance of naming things index page, if it is like the home page for a folder, say I have another folder living at the same level as this high-level landing page. If it did not have anything, like if it did not have any page within it titled index, then it would not appear in this child grid. It needs to be named index to appear here. If it's within a folder. If it's just any other page at the same level, it can be named whatever. That's why this is named sample page, but it is still showing up because it is not housed within another folder. So anyway, sorry if that was a little confusing of an explanation. It can be difficult to wrap your head around at first. As always, feel free to reach out and I can try to help you out with understanding that. So next, I'm going to move on to one of the more important things that you will need to know, which is how to upload images. Like I said earlier, all images should live within your site's images folder. And in order to add them, you just go up to add content, click on it, and you will see an image prompt right here. So to select an image from your device, you just want to click here, and I will just go into this folder, and I'm just going to use this example screenshot that I have. It is just a screenshot of black color. That's not like an issue with things loading improperly. It's just for demonstration purposes. So a few things to note. You will see that the editor is yelling at me because this does not follow naming conventions. Everything in Cascade that you upload, including pages and documents and images, should follow naming conventions. Naming conventions can be difficult at first, but the most important things that you should know is that you should not have capital letters, you should have no spaces, file names should not start with numbers, and you shouldn't have any special characters such as ampersands, exclamation points, $signs, etc. So in order to rename this something more accurate, ideally you would want something descriptive, but since this image doesn't really have much that can be explained about it, I'm just going to say black screenshot. And if I did want to include a number, I'd just include it at the end and not the beginning. So notice that I'm using hyphens instead of spaces. Hyphens are acceptable, and the reason you use them instead of spaces is because spaces results in messed up URLs. If you were to save this with spaces and then view it on the live site, in the URL, instead of having spaces, it would have like ampersand 20 instead of every space. That might not be the exact code that gets shown, but it's something similar. It's not good for search engine optimization, and it just doesn't look great to the user. The other thing to know is that you need to provide Oh, sorry about that. It should also have a file extension. So let's do .jpg. I am sure. There we go. Okay. So image descriptions are important because they increase accessibility scores for the website and improve the user experience for users who may be using assistive technologies, such as visually impaired users who might need like a screen reader to assist them. So for example, say you have somebody who is blind who is using your website. They would be using a screen reader in order to interact with it, and obviously they're not going to be able to see the images that are displayed. So by providing an image description, the screen reader is able to parse it and it will explain to them the image that is there. In this, it's not a great example because there's not really anything to describe, so I'm just going to put a screenshot of the color black. And then this would literally get read out loud to that person who is using a screen reader. Given that we are a public university, there are actually legal requirements for having accessible websites. So it's very important to always provide an image description. There are some exceptions, notably if an image is purely decorative in nature and it doesn't add any meaning to the web page, you can omit an image description. However, if you are not sure, it's usually better to err on the side of caution and just provide a description regardless. So I'm going to go ahead and preview this. I will just leave that at first version. There's no errors. One thing to note is that you will not be able to use this image elsewhere on the site until it is published. Now, currently this user, I'm using a separate account that's not my usual administrator account just to better demonstrate how this would look for you on your end. But typically there would be like a publish button up here that would allow you to publish this and make it accessible to other pages within the site. However, that's not there. So instead, just so you know, all of the content on the website gets automatically published every night, so this would appear after that nightly publish goes through. So let's go back to our sample page and I will show you how to actually use this image. I'm going to reopen the editor. And then let's see, I'm just going to open my WYSIWYG component that I was working out of earlier. Going to go down, and then I am going to use this insert edit image button that I teased earlier. So the process is very similar to when you are creating a link. There's internal and external options. You would only use external if you were going to be linking to an image from elsewhere on the internet. However, you should probably try to avoid this when possible, just due to like the inherent possibility that that image will eventually get moved, which will result in the image no longer appearing on the site. So we're going to go in. This shows our recently worked with assets, and I sort of like showed you how to use it earlier, but you can also use this browse button over here, which shows you the file structure of the website, just to navigate to wherever your folder is that is housing the image. However, I'm just going to select this since it's right here. I will press choose, and then you're going to want to provide a description for the image again. It's a little bit annoying that you have to write it again, but that's just part of how Cascade works. There are some reasons for that I won't get into for the sake of not going too long on this video. You will see here there's the option to mark an image as decorative, but like I said, it's better to err on the side of caution and just always provide a description if you aren't sure. So I'm just going to say a screenshot of the color black. And then typically you're going to want to leave the dimensions at what they naturally are and just not mess with any of this stuff. And then I will select OK, and there you have it. This is obviously it's just a picture of the color black. There's not much to see, but this is the image that was linked to. So then I will preview my draft, and there we are, the image is appearing. I will submit my changes. I will add a more descriptive version comment. Added image to WYSIWYG. Check content and submit. That's just going to be the same as spelling error from earlier. Have to view this in order to submit. And there we have it. The last thing that I want to show you is just going to be how to upload a document, and you will find that this is very similar to uploading an image. So you just want to go to add content, and the thing that makes documents tricky is you have to click on this default folder, and right here you will see the option to upload a file. So select your file. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to my recents, and then right here I just have a sample document that I was going to use. You will see that the file name that I had on my computer does not meet those naming requirements that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to just edit this. Well, actually, so right here you will see that there is a suggested file name that does fit. So if that works out for you and you don't want to rename it, feel free to just click this button to use a suggested name. That's going to be what I do just to demonstrate that functionality. We're not using an image for this file, so you can kind of ignore all of these. And that's really all there is to uploading files. So one thing to note is that you can't preview how most files look within Cascade. It's something that you kind of just have to wait to see on the live site typically. And that's just because... Okay, so disregard this error. This is just because the folder wasn't set up properly. Typically, you wouldn't run into that error when uploading a file to your documents folder. Oh, whoops. Okay, it's because I accidentally uploaded it into the wrong folder. That is my bad. Let me... Okay, sorry to have to do troubleshooting in the middle of this video, but let me see if I can get around that really quick. Okay, so the placement folder defaulted to the root level of the CWU site, so always keep an eye out for where you're uploading things. Thankfully, there are checks and balances in place that won't let you upload to somewhere that you don't have permissions. So this is the folder that I meant to upload to. And then I will just go through those steps that I went through before. I'm going to use a suggested name, preview draft. So like I was saying, Cascade doesn't really have the capabilities of previewing files within the system. So once this is uploaded, you can publish it on the live site and then link to it from another page. And how a Word document would work, for example, is it would just save to the user's computer. Keep that in mind. So you probably don't want your users to be regularly having to download files. In the context of this, like depending on what is housed within the Word document, if it's just simple information, it might be better to just simply copy and paste that into a WYSIWYG within a standard page rather than forcing the user to download it to view it. If the file is a PDF that will open within the user's browser, keep in mind there are accessibility concerns with these different file types. So just be aware about that. Be aware of that whenever working with files. And yeah, I believe that basically covers all of the basics of content creation within Cascade. Hopefully this has been helpful with demonstrating just how to create pages, edit pages, and so on and so forth. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the web services team. We have open office hours virtually hosted every other Tuesday at 2 p.m. So feel free to reach out to us to get an invite link to that. You can also get individual training set up, or if you're running into any issues with the website, you can submit a ticket to us using our ticket tracker, or our issue tracker, which is currently Team Dynamics, which is what the rest of IS uses. So yeah, if this has been helpful, or if there's anything else that you would like us to include in future training sessions, please just let us know. And yeah, thanks. Have a great day.